Oh, sorry, give me a minute. Try again. Hello, Van. How are you?
Hello,
How are you doing, man? Good.
I'm good, but I don't know how it's going because I use my phone instead of my laptop because my mic so bad.
I'm sorry. Could you say that again, please?
Okay, I don't know how it will be going because I use my phone
Okay.
because my laptop has so bad mic. I don't know
Mike. Well, I can.
microphone. Yes.
Well, as of now, I can hear you all right. So I suppose. Mhm. So how's your life? All good.
Sorry.
I said. So how's your life? All right. All good.
Ah, okay, well, they are spending at home.
All right. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. You at work now?
Yes, I just have started my work maybe 5 minutes ago.
Oh. Okay. All
It's
right.
so, it's so comfortable. Walking, and after that, you on the class.
Well, I guess that's the 21st century, right? That's pluses of the 21st century. Yeah.
Yes, but I think I collect some fat in oh, my stomach.
Not just you, man. Not just you. I swear. I was looking at my stomach today, and I was going, Jesus Christ, what has happened to me? Yeah. Um. But anyway. Um.
Do
Well,
you like this experience, this online class? Oh no.
well. I suppose it's better than anything. I suppose it's better than nothing, rather. Um. So yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
I thought it would be maybe awful, but when it started, so comfortable and sometimes easy than I thought. And
Could you
then
say that again?
uh, uh, I used to I used to think, yes, think,
I used to think that. Uh-huh.
I used to think it was effort. But when we started, really good experience online lessons.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not bad. It's not terrible actually. As long as the people as long as the students are ready to cooperate, then it's actually pretty good. Actually pretty good.
Especially when you have some good technique.
Yes, when you apply and is a good, yes. When you actually yes, when you apply when you're what do you call them? What do you call them? When your phone's working and then everything's working together, then yeah, really, really good. Actually, really good. Because it's all about just your internet quality, your microphone quality, as you said, and everything should be all right. But anyway, I guess we can carry on with what we have to do today. Well, it's just both of us, so we can talk about. Let's talk about what we have to talk about today. Eh? So actually, for today, we're talking about languages. Today, we are interestingly talking about languages, right? And we're talking about how languages have changed, how languages is changing, all right? Okay. So, how many languages do you speak, Pavel? How many languages do you speak?
Nice. I can speak Belarusian
Okay.
and Russian
Okay.
and a little bit in English.
What are you calling a little bit of English? I think your English is as fine as my Russian, and I can say I will proudly say I speak Russian. Okay, so yeah, that's three languages. Okay, but I think that Bel- Russian and Belarusian actually have a little in common. Yes, don't they?
Yes. Oh, I know a little bit Polish and some words in Turk,
In
and it's
Turkish.
Turkish. Yes,
You know some words in Turkish.
yes.
All right, that's interesting. And where did you learn this? Where did you learn them?
Uh, I learned it when I was a student, and I had special extra course of to, to, Turkish.
So you had Turkish lessons.
Yes, yes.
Interesting. All right. Okay.
It was a very interesting experience because my teacher knew only English and Turkish, and at that time I knew English maximum bad.
Uh, so could you say that again? I didn't get all of that.
Okay, it was so weird experience because my teacher
Uh-huh.
knew only English and Turkish, but
Okay.
I knew at the time English maximum, and I needed to learn Turkish in English, and I don't
Really?
understand English and I don't understand Turkish. Yeah.
Well, that's I suppose that's how do you put it right? I think that's not a dilemma, but I think it's actually a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Actually, a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Because how do you put it right? Well, when I was learning Russian, my Russian teacher did not speak any English. It was a terrible okay, I wouldn't say it was the worst. It was a terrible experience. But yeah, she didn't speak any English at all. But well, I suppose it did not. Okay, it did not stop. It did not really hinder my language learning process. Because well, I don't know. I suppose living in Belarus and well, living with Belarusians and everything was, and plus having lessons in a in a in a in Russian was all right. So we sort of compensated, okay, for everything, and we were good. All right, and so we've got a question. So we've got a little of a quote here. It's a little of a weird one, but the quote says, Americans who travel abroad for the first time are often shocked to discover that many foreign people still speak in foreign languages. Americans are shocked to discover that many foreign people still speak in foreign languages. Why do you think so?
I was wanted when I was Belgium, and very few people speaking in English. They know only French and Dutch language. It was a little bit confused because my friend really don't know English, and he couldn't speak with native speakers because they knew only French and Dutch. Do you understand
Okay,
me?
okay.
No.
Um,
Do you understand?
no, I didn't get that. Well, the microphone is I'm sorry, but it's becoming challenging. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that again,
Fuck.
please?
Okay. uh, when I was in Belgium,
Okay.
native people who live in Belgium, they
Uh-huh.
are speaking only French and Dutch. And
Okay.
my friend, he especially learned English because we was going to go abroad, and he was confused because he couldn't explain his thoughts people because they didn't understand him. And I think all American people thinking that all words must say in English. But
Well,
when they go abroad, they really confused.
touche. Well, actually, I suppose I did suppose honestly that most people should at least speak some English. Because well, come on, the biggest countries in the world, the best. I don't. Okay, I'm not judging, but I'm just saying. Well, most things are in English, or I think at least. And when you go, and then when I met people who did not speak any English at all, I don't know. It's like living in a cave, man. All right, it's like living in a cave. Because come on, it's one of those things that you will need in your life, right? I think the funny thing is when I meet Belarusians who don't speak any English at all, I just cannot fathom the idea. It's like a foreigner living in Belarus. English is the language of the world, as it is, right? I can literally say English is the lingua franca of the freaking world. There are more sick people. There are more people currently in the world right now who speak English as a second language than there are people who speak English as a first language. It's the language of the world, right? Most things are working in English. The World Health Organization is working in English. Probably the World Bank is in English. Hell, who knows? Okay, and for someone to sit around and not know any English, come on. How do you travel? How do you? Well, if you're using the internet, Google. Okay, I get it. Google is translating stuff into different languages, but you always find more stuff in English. Until I sort of don't get how people do it. But hey, who am I to judge them, right? Who am I to judge them? Okay, their languages are beautiful too, and probably they have never had to use English until the first time I saw them. So probably then, yeah, maybe why not? But anyway, English, as we know, is a language with many origins. All right, a language with a lot of origins. Yes, and it has picked up different words from these languages of origins that it has had, and well, English tries to keep this tries to keep its try to keep these words close to as close to the original as possible, right? Okay.
Yeah.
The first word we have, the first sentence here. 10 words most commonly be spelt by British people. 10 words most commonly misspelt by British people. Before we talk about the British and the English language, I suppose as you've been speaking Russian all your whole life, haven't you?
Yeah, maybe you share your screens.
Just give me a minute. Yes, I think I will. But you've spoken Russian your whole life, yes?
Yes.
All right. So from birth, you studied Russian at school. Your parents spoke it. You speak it. You speak it with your friends and everything. Yes.
Yes.
But I suppose that there are some words even in Russian that you always find tasking, challenging to spell, aren't they?
Maybe sometimes.
Of course, sometimes, right? But what about in English? What do you think about English spellings? Difficult?
Yes.
Okay. And can you give me an example of a word you find difficult to spell in English?
For example, words from our previous lesson. For example, a different a definition. Deficit.
I'm sorry, I didn't get any of that. I did not get any of that. Could you repeat that again, please?
Words from our previous lesson. Indefensible. Indefatigable.
Indefatigable. Indefatigable.
Indefatigable. It's maybe so confused because we English has a lot of letters and some letters we skipped, and after that we pronounce that word. It's maybe more confusing situation.
Okay. All right. I agree with that.
Because
Yeah.
when you read Russian words, uh, you literally can speak to every letters
Yeah,
in
you can
this word.
pronounce every letter, right? You should have to pronounce every letter.
Yes, and I think it's difficult for Russian language people because we can imagine words in our mind, and after that we understand how it spell. But when I imagine English words, I can spell.
Okay.
My microphone is very bad.
No. I actually understand what you're saying. I agree with. I agree with it. I agree with it. English. That's why in English we have phonetics, right? I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah,
Russian has a. I'm not. I don't think. Well, actually, when we learned in Russian, we did not really pay any attention to phonetics. I think the only phonetics we ever learned in Russian was that solnce is spelled with a. It's spelled with an L, but you don't pronounce it, for example, and that malako has a and o. It has all O's, but and if the stress is on the O, it's pronounced O, but if there's no stress, it's pronounced A. I think that's the only one, right? And it's sort of fixed, right? But I think the thing with English is that we have
but
26 letters.
excuse me. But when you say Monaco and if you say Monaco, it doesn't matter for Russian people. But when I say indefatigable, it's so it's so or maybe Yeshirkisi. It's so difficult in this
True,
language.
true.
Exercise or Yeshirkisi, Yeshirkisi. This
What?
is exercise.
Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
man.
yes. And when you think in Russian, and sometimes it's really difficult when you have a Russian brain. Understand how they spell this word.
Yeah, that's why when I see my students do this thing, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
God, where did they hear that from? What is that?
yeah.
All right. So anyway, I suppose we have a listening here. 1.25. All right. So give me a minute, please. Give me a minute. Beginner.
Do you have a special microphone, or you just use your iPod?
Come again?
Do you have a special microphone, or you just use your iPod?
No, I'm just using. I'm just using the microphone from my computer. Yes.
You like it
Well, I guess so.
because very very clear voice.
Really?
Really?
Well, yeah. I guess that's what do you call it? That's Apple for you, right? I guess that's Apple for you.
Yes. It really made clever technique.
All right. So we're gonna try this. We're gonna try less, and we're gonna have to do it.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I think 1.25. I just give me a minute here, please. Oh, all right. We have something different here. All right. I suppose scrap that. All right. So okay. So so and what do you do with this word? What do you do with this word when you hear a word, for example, in English? I don't know, in a song, in a movie, you read the word and then you don't understand the meaning of the word, or you can't pronounce or how to pronounce the word correctly. What do you do about
Mm,
what do
uh,
you do about it?
Yes. To be honest, I go to Google Translate and translate this word and get solution of it.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
Uh, I go to Google Translate and translate this word.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah,
You translate.
it's bad way.
It is not a bad way. It's a terrible way, man.
Yeah.
Terrible. Leave Google Translate to the beginners and elementaries, but even them, I don't advise to use it. All right, a dictionary, man, dictionary. Okay, you need to work on the accent, huh? A dictionary. All right, dictionary should help you. Should help you greatly. All right, okay. So
Okay.
anyway, so I suppose a dictionary. I suppose a dictionary is a good way to go. Okay, but all right, all right. We have a reading here. All right, we have a reading here. I like to just share the page with you. We will read it and discuss it together. All right, and then you tell me what you think. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Um. Uh, let's see if. So can you see my page now?
No.
You sure?
Yeah. Please
Can you,
wait while presenter loads their screen.
what the hell?
I don't know. Maybe because I used. Oh yeah, loader.
Now you see it?
No, but now I have a loader. Oh yeah. I see.
Now you see it, yes?
Yes.
All right, good. So first we've got a reading, right? 10 tips to learn any language from an expert. All right? 10 tips to learn any language from an expert. All right? Very good. So I'll just read and then we'll discuss it. Okay? How about that? Yes?
Okay.
All right. Matthew Yolden speaks 9 languages fluently and understands over a dozen more. He says, we work together in the Babel office in Berlin, so I constantly hear him using his skills, switching from language to language like a chameleon, changing colors with ease. In fact, for the longest time, I didn't even know he was British because he was constantly changing his speech. When I told Matthew how I had been struggling to pick up second language, a second language, he had the following advice to me for me. If you currently believe that you can never become bilingual, get ready to take some notes. Here are Matthew's best language learning tips.
Tips.
All right?
Yeah,
First one he
that's
says is first one he says is know your motivation. All right? Know your motivation.
yeah.
Um, uh, Before we read this one, what do you think about it? About knowing your motivation? How important is it?
That's very important because if you had some motivation, you would no. This is present. This is second condition or first condition. If you
If you have some motivation, then you will. First condition.
okay, if you have some motivation, you will learn more patiently, maybe because you know your and your way of learning, and sometimes motivation can change your life in better way. I think.
All right. All right. Well, I think the expression I like to go with is in English we say you can take a horse to the river, but you cannot force the horse to drink water.
Oh yeah.
All right. You can take a horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink water. So I believe that wish, that inner desire to study has to be there. Only then can you truly help a person with language acquisition. All right, very good. But let's see what he has to say. Oh, and what is your motivation when it comes to language learning?
Um, I need English in my work, and I want to understand one YouTube podcast. Maybe you know Joe Rogan.
Who?
Joe Rogan.
Who is that?
He is one of the most famous stand-up comic from USA.
No idea who it is. I'm sorry.
Okay, he has one beautiful podcast on YouTube because he has uh, a lot of famous guests, and all these guests represent other spheres. For example, he has one day he has famous sportsman, and other day he has maybe one the most scientist in this world.
Cool.
Uh, Powerful Joe Rogan, JVE.
Could you just could you just write that in the chat, please?
I don't understand.
Could you just write that in the chat?
Oh yeah, okay. Something like that.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Okay.
Power Joe Rogan. Interesting. All right then.
If you want, you can switch off your camera.
Oh, actually, it's recording, so I suppose so. No worries.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. Let's see what we have here. He says, "This might sound obvious. This might sound obvious, but if you don't have a good reason to learn a language, you are less likely to stay motivated over the long run. Long run. What do you understand by long run?
Start.
Well, to stay motivated over the long run. A long run is the whole process, the whole procedure, the whole distance it takes, the whole time it takes you to do something. The long run, all right. The whole time it takes you to do something. Okay.
Okay.
So he says, if you don't have the right motivation, it might be hard, right? Wanting to impress English speakers with your friend is not a very good reason. He says, right? Wanting to impress English speakers with your friend is not very good reason to learn French. Wanting to get to know a French person in their own language is another matter entirely. But he says, what? No matter your reason, once you've decided to learn a language, it's crucial, very important to commit to it, right? Very important to commit to it. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say that you are committed to language learning?
I don't know.
Come again?
I don't know. Maybe I read sometimes, listen sometimes.
So committed, well, okay. So apart from attending the course, what other activities do you do regularly to improve your English?
I really read, and sometimes I think my friends feed up my my English because I try to speak to him, and sometimes they feed up my mistakes, and they say me stop. Every day I try to speak English.
So your friends help you with your English?
Yes, my friends feed up my English.
Improve your English, yes?
Maybe maybe they improve my English, but they feed up my mistake. You understand?
They pick up your mistakes or what?
No. They feed up.
They
Feed.
are fed. They are fed up with your mistakes.
Yeah. Because they always say to me, you learn English, so you have been learning English for several years. Why you do the same mistakes every day? And I don't know. I don't know. I can write without mistakes sometimes,
Sometimes.
but but when I speak to people, it's so difficult for me. I don't know why.
Well, it happens.
Difficult speak without mistakes. I can translate my Russian thoughts like a flow, but when I speak just just flow, I made a lot of mistakes.
Okay, but I think the same thing with Russian. The same thing that happens to me with Russian. When you make these mistakes, do you consciously, if you think about your mistakes, if you become a little conscious of your mistakes, do you understand? So I understand that most mistakes, especially for an upper intermediate advanced student, is because of old habits. Yes, and but if you have to pause, listen, and scrutinize your own mistakes, do you actually know what do you actually know the right thing to say, or you don't?
Uh, I think I I don't learn enough some topics, and I start use it when I don't understand it very good.
So in teaching, we say we have an error and we have a mistake. All right, in linguistics, right? There are two things.
Yeah.
An error, an error is when
So,
it's a mistake.
one second. How is spell error?
So ERROR. Yes,
Yeah.
ERROR. Yes. Okay.
Error.
So you make an error because you don't know. Okay. So let's say,
Yeah.
for example, a pre-intermediate student, all right, makes a grammatical blunder when he's using the present perfect continuous.
Yes.
For a pre-intermediate student, he can be excused. We can call it an error. Probably they might not have studied it yet. Okay. But if you have an upper intermediate student still making grammatical blunders in the present perfect simple, well, that's a mistake because they should know it. And the fact that they don't know it means they haven't learned it well enough. Do you get my point?
Yeah.
So
Understand.
when you speak English and you say something grammatically incorrect, is it an error? Are they usually errors or are they usually mistakes? What do you think?
Hmm. I think sometimes it's error because I don't know.
You don't know why you've made that mistake, yes?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But sometimes I know, for example, second condition, third condition, and when I speak, especially when I want to speak faster, I make a lot of mistake because I can't I can't uh, I can't think so quickly what I would say, what I will
What
to
you want
say.
to say, right? Okay.
Yes,
All
but
right.
when I write my thoughts, maybe I have more time, and
Uh-huh.
I have a special time to thinking about my thoughts, and I make uh, less
Uh-huh.
mistakes.
Okay. All right. That's good.
And
Okay. So, what is your motivation in learning English?
uh, my I want to speak with foreign, for example, tourist in my town, and and I want to explain him uh, where they can try best food, or I want to explain him the history of my country, but I couldn't do it.
You can't do it, right?
I can't do it. Yes.
All right. Well, that's good motivation. I hope it helps you to the very end. All right. So the next one we have is okay. I want to learn this, and therefore going to do as much as I can in this language, with this language, and for this language. Good quote. Yes.
Yes.
I want to learn this, and I'm going to do as much as I can with this language and for this language. In this, I'm going to do as much as I can in this language, with this language, and for this language. Cool. That's a really cool quote. All right. So tip 2 is what? Find a partner. Now the question: why is this important?
Because you can practice your speech and your audience, and sometimes it's so funny because you improve you improve your skills in real life.
Okay. And you mean fun, right? Yes, not funny. You mean fun, yes?
Fun, yeah, fun.
Okay.
Yes.
And why do you have to practice language?
Because language this is thing you can you might you might learn English, or you might learn language only if you use it every day and if you practice it every day. It doesn't matter you do mistake or no, you make mistake or do
Uh,
mistake.
make mistake.
Make you
Yeah.
make mistake or not make mistake, but you must use it every day.
So the more you use the language, the better you learn it, right? Yes.
Yes.
Cool. True. All right. And what else can a partner help you with? Well, what do you think? Any other ways a partner can help you apart from just practice?
Um, I think partner maybe it's a good way, but not so good because if you if you will make mistakes every day with your partner, and your partner doesn't correct you, you you don't improve your language, and you remember your mistakes, and maybe even you you start think you speak correct.
You speak correctly, right?
You speak correctly, yes.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm a competitive person. At least I like to think so. Um, uh, but I also think that a partner, in language learning is like somebody to compete with. I still remember when I was learning Russian. For me, a great person, someone I always compared myself to, was my brother, right? Because I
Yeah,
understand that when we both came, we were both newbies to the whole language learning thing, right? To the whole Russian language thing, right? We both did not speak any Russian, right? And if one day he mentioned or he used a word that I did not know, then I got sort of I felt embarrassed that I did not know the word. Well, not too embarrassed, of course, to ask him for the meaning of the word, but I did ask him for the meaning of the word, and automatically I could keep up. I could understand that I was keeping up. I was chasing someone, and I could actually see my progress in real time because well, there was someone there I could compare myself to. All right. So I actually
yeah,
believe that this partner factor is a good thing. All right. But in some cases where your partner is more proficient than you are, then your partner sort of exposes you to stuff that you might not necessarily think about. And I think one more important thing is your partner actually presents, having a partner helps you um, uh, deal with language in a more of an interesting way. Because sometimes you can get bored with just sitting down and studying a book, or sometimes you might get demotivated, or no one wants to read a book about Hussein from Turkmenistan, who is a student in the third year in university. You want to talk about real people, get to know real people, use the language in real time. And I think that's what a partner will give you, especially if you're learning a language in a place where the language is not spoken natively, all right, or locally, okay?
Yeah.
And then the next one we have, let's read the text then, all right? So Matthew learned several languages together with his twin brother Michael. They tackled their first foreign language, Greek, when they were only 8 years old. Matthew and Michael, or the super polyglot bros, as I'd like to now refer to them, gained their superpowers from good old healthy sibling rivalry. See what I'm saying? We were very motivated, and we still are. We push each other. We push each other to really go for it. So if he realizes that I'm doing more work than he is, he gets a bit jealous and then tries and outdoes me. He'll get a bit jealous and then try and outdo me. Maybe because he's my twin and the other way around. All right? And even if he can't get a sibling, even if you can't get a sibling to join you on your language adventure, find some kind of partner who will push you. Finding some kind of partner will push both of you to always try a little bit harder and stay with it. I think it's a really great way of actually going about it. You have someone with whom you can speak, and that's the idea behind learning a new language. So I suppose this text absolutely agrees with me, and I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with the text. So, do you know anybody who can help you with your language, who can become your language twin, or your, as if we're putting it that way? Do you know anybody?
No. Yes, I know one twin, but they don't speak in English.
You know somebody who doesn't speak English?
Yes, they just Belarusian twin.
Oh, no, 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 not necessarily twins. Not necessarily twins.
Uh,
I mean someone who can be like a language partner for you.
yeah, like an English partner. No, 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 I have no idea for this.
All right.
No,
Okay. But hey,
that's very, very good tip.
okay. What I say is, wait, is the 21st century, and now it's a lot easier to do it. All right, to find a partner to help you. All right. Now it's a
That's
lot
good.
easier.
Yes,
Good.
because now we have a lot of internet source where people looking for a partner.
Exactly. All right. Okay, please, and then very good then. Next one. I think I've been screaming for 3 hours. I can feel my voice disappearing. The next one is a weird looking one, a weird looking tip.
Doctors, yes, in my head, I am very extremely perfect Englishman.
Come again?
In my head, I am extremely perfect Englishman.
I didn't get that.
Understand?
No, I didn't get that. Can you say that again, please?
Okay. In my head, I am extremely perfect Englishman.
True. Okay.
Really. But when I open my mind, it's not so good, like in my brain.
Okay. But do you ever speak English to yourself?
Excuse me?
Do you ever speak English to yourself?
Every day. Every day I speak in English with myself. To
And
myself, speak to
and when
myself.
you do, what do you talk about?
Uh, Sometimes I just translate words that I heard. Sometimes I create some story when I clean my dish. It's uh, I don't know. I
Okay.
just I just try to just try translating sentences that I can use in real life. For example, when I go to store, I translate in my brain how I can say it in English, and when I do it, I find some words that I don't know, and I try to remember it when I went to home, when I get back to home.
Okay. All right. That is uh, that is a good thing to do. That's a good way to do. That's a good way to go about it. I personally also do the same. Uh, I personally also do the same thing. If to be honest, when I started learning English, when I started learning Russian, right? Um, uh, I'm screaming. The thing I think when I came to Belarus, the thing I feared most was getting arrested and not being able to make friends. I feared those two things most. I'm a very friendly person, and the fear of not being able to make friends was something that was threatening to me. And so I understood that in order to make friends, I was going to have to talk to people. And so I always sort of imagined what it would be like to be arrested. For example, if I was arrested, what would I say to the police, for example? And if I met a pretty girl tomorrow, or an interesting guy tomorrow, what would I tell them? How will I start the conversation? And I'd had these conversations in my head to myself, of course. And then, well, okay, I understand that sometimes you might sort of I understand that sometimes you might sort of undervalue or overvalue yourself, but I think the most important thing that I realized was sometimes when you were talking to yourselves, you could actually see gaps in your knowledge. Gaps in your knowledge. What do I mean? Like in your vocabulary, for example, you want to say something to someone and you don't know exactly how to put it in English, right? Or in Russian, or the language of choice. And then sometimes you might find out that it's a little the idea you have in the idea you have in your head might be a lot. You might put it into a lot more words than you would do in your original language. And then what I do then is I tell a native speaker the idea I have, and they sort of help me put it in a better way. So there goes your advantage of talking to yourself, right? Yes.
Yes, very good way.
Okay. So please let's take a look at the text. Give me a minute. I'll just turn the lights on. It's getting a little dark in here. Please read the text.
Me?
Yes, please.
Okay. When you have no one else to speak to, there is nothing wrong with talking to yourself in foreign language. It might sound really weird, but actually speaking to yourself in a language is a great way to practice if you are not able to use it all the time. If you don't know how to go about learning a new language, this can keep new words and phrases fresh in your mind. It also helps build up your confidence for the next time you speak with someone.
Exactly. So what am I saying here? What is the text saying here? Well, the text is agreeing. The text is agreeing with what I said.
Yes, this is what did you say about gap in your knowledge
Exactly.
and yes, because when you speak to yourself, you're really honest and you don't make
I'm sorry.
a
Could you say that again,
point
please?
of uh, when you speak to yourself, you're maximum honest to yourself, and you really realize your mistakes. You really realize your gap of knowledge, and if you if you have a big desire to learn English or other language, you go when you get back and bring some books. You I think you learn new information, and new information more remember more remember. What is it? How I can say it? You you remember this information more. You remember this information more. Yeah,
Longer.
longer. Yeah, yes, longer. You remember this information longer, and after that, you can use information in your speech.
True. True. I agree with that. All right. I agree with
because
that.
because sometimes when I speak with people, when I want to speak with people, compare my knowledges in tests, I make some views that I know it. But when you speak to yourself, you really honest, and you really stay only with your knowledge, and you you shouldn't lie someone.
True.
And
Yeah, I agree with that. But sometimes you want to. Well, I partially agree with that. Okay, because sometimes you want to impress someone, and then that will actually push you to try a lot harder than you would usually do. Well, I don't know. At least for me. All right. At least for me. But hey, who knows? Maybe it's just the kick you need, right? So I suppose you can try
yeah,
it, and you can see whether all right whether it works for you. Okay. All right. Then the next one we have is sorry, give me a minute.
okay,
Keep it relevant. Keep it what? Relevant.
relevant. This
All
is
right.
uh, this is like in Russian. I know this Russian word, but I don't know in English. Uh, when your knowledge is matched for real life, yes, maybe.
Yes. 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 So if you when your knowledge is how do you call it? When it's enough. Yes.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. True. And well, I guess for this one we can just read the text and find out. All right. Can you read the text, please?
Okay. If you make conversation a goal from the beginning, you are less likely to get lost in textbooks. Talking to people is one of the best way to learn a language because it keeps the learning process relevant to you. You are learning a language to be able to use it. You are not going to speak it only to yourself. The creative side is really being able to put the language that you are learning into a more useful, general, everyday setting, be that songwriting songs. And I don't see. Okay, waiting to speak to people or using it when you go aboard. You don't necessarily have to go aboard. You can go to the Greek restaurant down the road and other in Greek.
Touche. So I think this is the part that it's tricky as a teacher, right? I think for me this part is tricky because honestly, sometimes I think the most important thing actually with teaching students is, especially beginner students, right? Um, uh, how to go to a restaurant, for example, and order some food in English, right? What sometimes what I do in my individual lessons is we have a lesson where we talk about it. Then the next lesson we go to a restaurant actually, and we I make them order food in I make them order some food or at least some coffee, right, in English, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, and then they sort of get into. I find a restaurant, of course, where I know the staff speak English, and I make them order in English, and I ask the staff to sort of help them. All right, make the order or get the order in English, and it works. All right, because it's I think first of all, it's a great confidence booster, right? It really boosts their confidence, right? Okay.
Very good. When you live maybe in the European Union, and
Uh huh.
for example, if you live, for example, Lithuania, you can buy a cheap ticket to Netherlands for 2 days and practice your English and with real people for cheap for cheap price, for
True.
example.
True. Okay, true. But not only that, in Belarus sometimes just for the fun of it, I go to a shop and I ask if they speak English and I try to order stuff in English. And I tell you, especially in Nemiga right now, in Minsk, in Nemiga right now, most of the shops there actually have a representative or someone that speaks English. So it's a good why. Hey, why can't you try it? I don't think if you go to try to make an order in English, and the waiter speaks English, she would tell you, hey, listen, I'm not going to speak English to you. I don't think she would do that. I think she'll actually cooperate and just speak English with you. So I think it's a good way to actually try it. You can just get your act together, go try it. Why not?
Do you have some trouble in your daily life with with our people because they don't know English?
Not necessarily. Well, I wish they all knew it, but sometimes I'll just say something in English. If the person does not respond, or the person just says they don't speak English, and I'll switch to Russian.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I,
yeah. I understand that you don't know Russian, but if you, for example, just imagine have if you had known Russian,
uh-huh.
you would have had some trouble or not.
Yeah, true. If I hadn't known Russian, I would have had some troubles. Definitely. Oh, of course. Nobody at immigration is trying to speak Russian to you. Is trying to speak English with you. Nobody. Uh, yeah, really, really, honestly, right? And that's the thing, right? That's the problem somehow, sometimes, right? Because you want to you don't want people to sort of deceive you, right? And so, at immigration, for example, you're gonna have to speak English whether you like it or don't like. You're gonna have to speak Russian whether you like it or don't like it.
Okay. And maybe some people scare of when you go and start to speak in English. Yeah,
Um, uh, some
or
people
not.
they're not scared. Some of them get a little embarrassed or a little, well, of course, surprised first. But sometimes they are a little embarrassed when they cannot keep up the conversation, I think. But then immediately I tell them that I can speak. Immediately I tell them that I can speak Russian, and they should chillax, and then we can speak in Russian. Yeah.
Okay. Embarrassed, this is like confused or not?
Come again?
Embarrassed, like confused?
Yes, like I'm confused.
Okay.
All right, embarrassed like
Yeah,
a. All right. So then number five, they say what? Have fun with it. Number five, have fun with it. Try. What do you think? What What do you think about having fun with the language?
maybe you should you should find some activities that can get you some interesting experience.
For
And
example, what do you?
for example, movies in English.
That's a good one. Movies in English. Okay. Do you ever watch movies in English?
Uh, yes, I tried doing it, and
Okay.
sometimes I buy a ticket in cinema, and I sometimes I buy a ticket and into go to cinema and look English cinema, English movie in cinema.
Okay.
but it's little bit confused
Why?
uh, because I think I understand about 30%. For example, I watched Gentleman Guy Ritchie in English.
What did you see in English? What film?
Gentleman's
Ah, The
Guy Ritchie.
Gentleman. Yeah.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and I really realized that I must learn English because this is very and interesting movie, and understand I understand people because a lot of things so patient and so interesting, and they use so interesting emotions, and I don't understand what they say.
Wow. Um. Okay. Well, I suppose that one comes with practice. Well, that one is sort of a practice makes perfect kind of situation. Because I tell you honestly, well, even when I see films in Russian, for example, well, I don't say I understand 100% of what's going on, but I sort of understand what the videos are about, what the video is about. I understand. Well, I do understand probably around 95%. Probably there might be some jokes I might not fully understand, or some or some sarcasm that I might not get. But and I'd say, well, it's in with English movies. The problem is that most students just go for a subtitles version or a dubbed version. But imagine watching Russian classics in English, right? First of all, if you can find them, and second of all, well, I think it just takes out the whole idea of culture in it, right? I think when you're watching a movie in the original language, the culture is felt, all right. The
Yeah,
emotions the director wanted to sort of underline are still there, but once is a voice actor doing a cover, well, the jokes might be different, right? The jokes might be different. Because I still remember, for example, there was a movie I saw, Secret Life of Pets, right? And there was a very interesting joke in it. Um, uh, and the interesting thing about the joke was actually it was a play on words. So in English, a dog goes. So the sound a dog makes, okay, it's called a bark, but the onomatopoeia of the word is woof. Okay, so in English we say woof, right? And
yeah,
so in the movie there was a little dog who was not sure about his potentials, because he was supposed to trust his nose, use and find some stuff with his nose. But when he couldn't find it, he now sat and thought, who said that dogs were related to wolves? Maybe one day a puppy dog was asking her mother, where did dogs come from? And the mother went, woof, woof. And the baby thought probably the mother said, wolf, wolf. So the interesting thing is, this is woof and wolf sound alike in English. But in Russian, for example, guff and volk, they don't sound alike in any way, right? And then the question is, well, okay, how do you translate that joke in English how do you translate that English joke into Russian? And does the same idea behind the joke remain? Okay, I understand there's some really smart ways that translators and movie people sort of go around it, but you get my point.
yeah. You remember me about one interesting scene in Game of Thrones when Hodor holds the door, and and one guy always scream, "Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door!" After that, he get his name. Hold the
Hold on.
door.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, it's very interesting, and I really noticed it when I watched Game of Thrones in English, and after that I really realized that sometimes original language can give you a lot of emotion and real scenes of a movie.
And in Russian, what was his name?
I don't remember. Hold on, but they translate like завали, завали, and after that they translate this word like a hold on. But in English, this is real have hold the door, hold the door.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So stuff like that, right? And I think those kind of things, you miss out on these little treasures, right? When you're watching a movie that is dubbed. So yes, have fun with it. But let's see what he says.
Okay.
He says, using new language in any way is a creative act. The super polyglot bros practice their Greek by writing and recording songs. Think of some fun ways to practice your new language. Make a radio play with a friend, draw a comic strip, write a poem, or simply talk to whomever you can. If you can't find a way to have fun with the new language, chances are you're not following step 4. Step 4 was what? Keep it relevant. Exactly right, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And then step 6 we have is act like a child. That's an interesting one. Um, uh, how do children learn languages? Do you have a little brother or a cousin
Mm,
or something?
uh, yes.
Okay.
I have a little sister, but now she isn't little, but she was little.
Once upon a time. Okay.
Yeah.
And were you actually intrigued, or did you ever pay attention to how she was picking up the language?
Children always try to speak, and they don't pay attention how it sounds, how it goes. They just say,
They just talk, right? Yes.
yeah, they just talk. Yes.
And but do you ever wonder why is it that children do that?
Uh, they often ask question, what is it? I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well,
They like a little exploratists.
uh-huh. Okay. But a little question. Do you think children are when children speak a language, do you think they are shy?
No, they always like they are.
Exactly right. So when children speak a language, they're not shy. No, they're not. They're
Yeah.
absolutely not shy. They're actually very inquisitive, right? Okay. The younger they are, the more inquisitive they are, right? And that's a good thing when it comes to language learning. It really fuels the whole process of language learning, right? And that's it.
Yes.
Okay, because I think the problem with adults when learning a language from the TV show I once watched was that when adults learn a language, they are shy, they are under a lot of pressure, and at the same time, they're also in a haste, sort of, right?
Yes,
They're
but
always
adults have one big experience. They know how it works, and they know special skills in learning.
okay. Yes, they do. They do. They have a lot of tricks. They can learn different. And I saw that actually adults are good at one thing, from what I heard, that adults are good at memorizing new words, for example, in comparison to children. They're
Yeah.
also better at learning difficult grammar, for example. Like I think it's near to impossible to try to teach a 6-year-old um, uh, passive forms. They just cannot comprehend it, right? So let's see what the text actually says here. This is not to say you should throw a tantrum or get food in your hair when you go out to a restaurant, but try learning the way kids do, which is the idea that children are inherently better learners than adults is proving to be a myth. Why? New research cannot find a direct link between age and the ability to learn. The key to learning as quickly as a child may be to simply take a certain childlike attitude. For instance, lack of self-confidence, a desire to play in the language and willingness to make mistakes. All right? We learn by making mistakes. As kids, we are expected to make mistakes, but as adults, mistakes become taboo. Think how an adult is more likely to say, I can't, rather than I haven't learned that yet. I can't swim, I can't drive, I can't speak Spanish. To be seen failing or merely struggling is a social taboo that doesn't bother children. When it comes to learning a language, admitting that you don't know everything and being okay with that is the key to growth and freedom. Let go of your grown-up inhibitions, right?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think.
So you do agree with this, right? Okay. And how can you implement this? Or why are you not okay? How can you implement this in your own language learning? Sorry?
Um, you, I don't know. I don't know how to say. Maybe you explain me.
Okay. All right. So this is the thing. All right. This is the thing. I realized when I was learning Russian, um, uh, I'm a kind of person that it's sometimes it's bad, but sometimes it's good. I have a very good self-esteem, and but at the same time, I don't mind telling people I don't know something. If I don't know it, I can comfortably tell you, listen, I don't know what you're talking about. I really don't know that word. Like, could you help me write it down? I do have a childlike quality, attitude to learning language in the fact that, in the sense that I'm inquisitive. So if I hear a new word in Russian, I will not skip it. I would always like to write it down, for example, right? Well, of course, not every word. But the thing is that I love expressions. I love these expressions that make people's ear go, okay, you know that kind of expression, right? Yeah. Like the and I like finding equivalents for expressions I personally use in English, right? Like for example, in English, uh, I like there was an expression a friend of mine used once, and I just sort of fell in love with it. And the expression was "cool bananas," right? Cool bananas. Uh, cool bananas. I know. Instead of just saying "cool" or "wow," you just say it's "cool bananas," right? And I really liked the expression, so I took it. And once I told it to a friend of mine in Russian, and she liked it. And I asked her for an equivalent in English, and she used the word "atval bachki." I loved it, and I memorized it instantly. Why? It's not a normal kruta or интересно, right? But the same thing, it's also something with a little to it, right? When you say it, people will be impressed by it, okay? And that childlike inquisition helped. So yesterday, I actually learned a new one, and it was a это так вкусно, это вообще отрывать язык. Something like that, right? And I just
Yeah.
like this kind of impression. I like this kind of expressions, right? I remember them better. Okay? And I like the fact that when I say it, people always give me that reaction, that reaction, right? And it sort of fuels my motivation, fuels my eagerness to always want to find more expressions like that. All right? So, yeah, that's the thing, right? Don't be embarrassed to make mistakes. Mistakes are the key. All right? Because mistakes actually show that you were living your comfort zone, like in tip 7. All right? So, I suppose you read number 7. Please, would you mind?
Okay. Willingness to make mistakes means being ready to put yourself in potential embarrassing situations. This can be scary, but it's the only way to develop and improve. No matter how much you learn, You won't ever speak a language without putting yourself out there. Talk to the strangers in the language, ask for directions, ask food to learn to tell a joke. The more often you do this, the bigger your comfort zone becomes, and the more at ease you can be in new situations. At the beginning, you are going to encounter difficulties. Maybe the pronunciations, maybe the grammar, the syntaxes, or you don't really get the saying. But I think uh, I think the important thing is to always develop this feel. Every native speaker has a felt for his or her own language, and that basically what makes the native speakers. Whatever you can make the language your own. Okay.
Good.
Okay. It's not good, but okay.
So, what is your comfort zone? What is your comfort zone? This is how I explain your comfort zone. There's some things I can talk about all day in Russian. For example, take for example, talk about why I came to Belarus. I can talk about that all day in Russian. Talking about, for example, do I like Belarus? Do I like the weather? I can talk about that forever. Why? Because this is stuff I talk about usually when I meet people in the first instance, right? But for example, in a relationship now, you have to talk about other things in Russian, right? Yes,
Yeah.
you have to talk about well, regular bitavucha, you know what I mean, right? Regular family life, right? And this is vocabulary. These are expressions. This is a whole new world, okay, that you're not comfortable with. All right. And sometimes I find that I just tend to jump into English when I have to do that. Or some people, for example, when they are learning a language, right, or they are talking about something, they go, короче, объясню по-русски. No, 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 no. Don't do that. Don't do that. This is you. This is you stepping out of your comfort zone, and this is you actually making the language relevant. And that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. So I tell them, say it again, say it, struggle with it, say it again, memorize it. Because that struggle is the one you remember, right? Because this is you stepping out of your comfort zone, right? Because in your comfort zone, you won't struggle. No, you won't struggle. And when you step out of your comfort zone, then you are actually struggling. So that's the key thing, right? Step out of your comfort zone. Talk about stuff you're not usually used to. For example, in English, I can talk about anything, right? But in Russian, I'm not sure I can talk about cars. Why? Because, well, cars is not a topic that I talk about every day, okay? But take, for example, now I'm watching a cookery show, right? About a master chef, okay? And I'm actually seeing it in Russian and Ukrainian. So right now I know some cooking words that I did not know before, right? Because I am what? Stepping out of my comfort zone, right? Okay? Sort of. Okay? And tip number 8, please. Can you read number 8?
Listen, it's clear. Next, please.
So you must listen. You must learn to listen before you speak.
Yeah.
You must learn.
Watch as a talk. The most watch as a talk.
Okay. So you must learn to listen before you. Every language sounds strange the first time you hear it, but the more you expose yourself to it, the more familiar it becomes, and the easier it is to speak it properly. We're able to pronounce anything. It's just we're not used to doing it. For example, the rolled R doesn't exist in my form of English. When I was learning Spanish, there were words with the hard R in them, like Piero and reunion or reunion, or however you pronounce it in Spanish. For me, the best way to go about mastering that is actually to hear it constantly, to listen to it, and kind of visualize or imagine how that is supposed to be pronounced. Because for every sound, there's a specific part of the mouth or throat that we use in order to achieve that sound.
Okay.
In learning Russian, for example, we had the sound, sound, and the mякик snack, l, all right, or the t. These are not common English sounds. Of course they're not. Who has time for an r? In English, we have r's. Literally, we don't even have an r, like Americans do. But in British English, you have r's. Literally, r's. The only time you might hear an r is when we have a, for example, for example. That's one of the only places you might hear an r. Irresponsible words like that, right? But in Russian, for example, you guys say здравствуйте, здравствуйте, That's the first word you learn in Russian, goddammit. Здравствуйте, right? Здравствуйте. And it's very uncommon, right? Okay, very, very uncommon. So even the привет, yours sound like привет, all right, привет. And then, well, it's not something that's common in English, right? Nobody does it. You don't do it in English language. You don't need it, right? And then when you learn it in Russian, right, you sort of have to get used to it, right? Get used to it, right? So that's it. That's sort of the whole gist, all right? And then I'll just read number 9 real quickly, all right?
Okay.
Oh, there's number 9 and number 10. Ooh, okay. I'll just rush through this one. What do you think? So, what other story?
Repeat for the people.
Come again?
Repeat for the people. No.
Well, yes. Watch others talk. Make demands on your tongue, lips, and throat. Pronunciation is just as much as physical as it is mental. One way it might sound a bit strange is to really look at someone while they're saying words that use that sound, and then to try to imitate the sound as much as possible. Believe me, it might be difficult at the beginning, but you'll master it. It's something that is actually quite easily done. You just need to practice. All right? If you can't watch or imitate a native speaker in person, watching foreign language films and TV is a good learning substitute. But don't forget to dive in. So you've made the play to how to proceed, rather. Is there a proper way to go about language learning? Matthew recommends the 360 maximalist approach. No matter which learning tools you use, it's crucial to practice your new language every single day and immerse yourself. He says, I tend to want to absorb as much as possible right from the start. So if I learn something, I really, really go for it and try to use it throughout the day. As the week progresses, I try to think in it, try to write in it, try to speak to myself even in that language. For me, it's about actually putting what you've learned, what you're learning into practice. Be that writing an email, speaking to yourself, listening to music, listening to the radio. Surrounding yourself, submerging yourself in the new language culture is extremely important. The culture is important because the jokes actually in the culture. All right, sometimes the language, the expressions are parts of the culture. Remember that the best possible outcome of speaking a language is for people to speak back to you. Being able to have a simple conversation is a huge reward, like what we're doing right now. Reaching milestones, all right? Reaching milestones like that early on will make it easier to stay motivated and keep practicing. And don't worry, you won't annoy people by speaking their language poorly. If you preface any interaction with, I'm learning and I like to practice. True. If you preface any interaction with, I'm learning and I like to practice, most people will be patient, encouraging, and happy to oblige. Even though there are approximately 1 billion non-native English speakers around the world, most of them would rather speak their own language if given a choice. Taking the initiative to speak or to step into someone else's language can also put them at ease and promote good feelings around. All right? And promotes good feelings around. Sure, you can travel abroad speaking your own language, but you get so much more out of it being able to actually feel at ease in the place you are, being able to communicate, to understand, to interact in every single situation you could possibly imagine. So yes, I agree with that in a sense that you should also give yourself some tap on the back, right? Take a holiday, go to an English-speaking country, feel the joy of speaking the language to English speakers and letting them understanding and seeing them understand you, letting them talk back to you, let them recommend you, commend you. All right? These are also little bits of how to improve your language learning. All right? So good job,
Yeah.
Pasha. An
Thank you.
hour 30 minutes. Wow, that was a solid one. Okay.
Thank you.
So I suppose have a good day, Pasha.
Thank you.
See you on
See you
Monday, all
next
right?
week. Thank you. Goodbye.
Ciao.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.